Always remind you that the Voice of Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest and only African American publication, now electronic as well as print. We're in 89 zip codes, 17 cities, 39 communities, unincorporated areas of San Diego County. Our paper is available online where you can download our app in the Google or Apple Store, or you may find it in retail outlets such as 7-Elevens or newsstands, or by mail throughout the county. And so we have expanded beyond San Diego in terms of what we do. Our motto is the people without a voice cannot be heard. And so Dr. Leonard Thompson III and myself, we provide an opportunity for you to voice and express yourselves. We are joined tonight by the managing editor of the Voice of Viewpoint, Ms. LaTanya West. And as much as they try to give me the credit, she's the one responsible for all the great and substantive news that you see and all the ongoing projects that we have, because there are a number of things going. She does a masterful job of handling our staff, which is spread in a number of states throughout the country, and yet everything is coordinated in such a way that it works very smoothly. So we're glad to have her with us this evening. And Dr. Thompson, we have an exciting agenda, but let us start by the congratulatory remarks to you, GOD Radio, the Stellar Awards recognition, which is just phenomenal. You and Tall Cotton, as they say, starting out with Mahalia Jackson, Blind Boys coming on down the list of recipients. So well, let us hear from you.
Well, first and foremost, Dr. Warren, I always tell people that the Stellar Awards is a collective work and responsibility of all of us together. Every on-air, every program, every DJ, our partner newspaper with the Voice and Viewpoint, all of our sponsors. And so we didn't look at it as a personal win as much as we looked at it as a family win for all of us, because we, over the 6 years, we have created a vehicle that is going worldwide and impacting, and we're learning more and more how to support one another and grow together. So I've been telling everybody, come take a picture with the award, because that is your award too. We did it together. So Dr. Warren, congratulations to you. Ms. West, congratulations to you. Like they say, we did it, Ma. you know? But yeah, it's definitely us all together.
Well, I'm glad you said worldwide, because as you've gone worldwide, so have we. When we do our analytics each week, we have 8 to 10 countries that are following us, both in terms of print publication, some even with this program, because we've noticed that in many instances we have a greater post-broadcast viewership than we do when we're actually doing the program, and people continue to tune in. So we're excited that we're growing together in this partnership, and it's an important one, and there's a lot to come. We are growing with staff, with programs and activities. I want to start off by reminding people that this Saturday, GOD Radio Mandate Records will be on the US Midway for this annual. What year is this?
This is the 11th annual.
The 11th annual
Bayside Gospel Concert aboard the Midway.
On the Midway, and it's it's a very important place to be. Just not only the history when you go on that carrier, but the Midway has become one of the major tourist attractions in San Diego. Over 1 million people a year visit it. I remember when it was just an idea in a replica in a display case in the Santa Fe train station, and wondered how in the world are they going to put this ship on the harbor, and how can they do that? And I thought they were going to turn it the long way as opposed to the manner in which it's there, which makes sense. And so it's been a time of great growth, and we have become one of the stellar partners with the Midway, both in terms of your program. You and I were recognized with their Bridge Builders Award at their Martin Luther King University activity earlier this year. And so it's grown to be extremely inclusive of all of San Diego. And so we were excited about this, and we want people to come out. Even though Comic-Con is going to be here, we don't want that to interfere with your coming. You can still get tickets. It's not a major investment, but it's such an important expenditure to be there because we're always complaining about not being included. And when we have a chance, we have to show up and be a part of it. So we're excited.
Well, you know, one of the things, Dr. Warren, I would be remiss if I did not say something about Miss West that is on with us. You know, there's a lot of things changing in the atmosphere. So as we go through the day, we are so excited to have some estrogen up in the house tonight. We get ready to get in, get ready, get ready, get ready. Miss West, how are you?
I'm great. I'm wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here.
Well, Dr. Warren, I'm going to give you the pitch. There's some stuff happening in the city that you have an opinion about. Let's get it on.
Well, we're going to start off talking about this mega shelter proposal downtown. And the city council held a marathon hearing on this proposal earlier. And it was phenomenal. It went from like 2 in the afternoon to almost midnight on the night that they held it. We know that what happened is at the Vine and Kepner location, the idea that's been circulated is to put 1,000-bed mega homeless shelter with all kinds of services and benefits. But there are a lot of problems with this program, with this proposal, really. The cost of it is astronomical, if you will. The owner bought it for $13 million. It's going to cost us over $30 million a year just in terms of operating costs, the renovations that have to take place to make it usable for our purposes is just astronomical in terms of the investment. Even the price, the independent budget analyst did a very detailed 17-page report on this project. And if one read this report, one could not help but join the members of the city council in saying, why are we doing this? Now, the city council tabled this proposal until the 31st and gave some instructions for the city to come back. But I believe from reading and looking at the cost and all of the questions that are raised, that it should be scrapped altogether.
Mm-hmm.
That the city should go and do a RSP and take in proposals, because the analyst's office went out and got a number of comparable prices. This place is going to cost $1.97 a square foot, and then after the first year with triple net is going to go up 3.5%, and it's just going to keep climbing each year, which is ridiculous. They found comparable properties that range from $144 to $155 a square foot in terms of $1.55, and the difference was some $390,000 in terms of the initial cost. Now, if you look at this outside of getting it started, there's no place in the budget for the future financing it on the scale that it's going to take, number one. Some of the existing beds are going to be replaced so that when they finish moving people in from places they closed, the number of new beds goes down from 1,000 to like 538. And so, yes, homelessness is a problem here, and it should be a priority. But to straddle the city this way, the city could have bought this property. It went on the market in 2015. It got sold in 2019 for $13 million. Now, why on the earth would we be renting something from someone who bought it for $13 million, and they are already going to be making a ton of money? They're talking about making some repairs and doing some in-kind services, but at the end of the day, and I encourage you to go online to Voice and Viewpoint and read the article that we have entitled San Diego City Council Tables Mega Shelter Proposal, and you can get all of the details. So editorially, we're going to be recommending that the thing be shelved and that we not use it, and that we go out and search again. The homeless problem is not going to be overcome in just a matter of minutes the way we're trying to approach this. And yeah, we do have a problem in terms of homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that came out in terms of our article coverage, which was done by our fellow, is that last year 624 people died in San Diego County while experiencing homelessness. Mm-hmm. 624 people. That amounted to 12 people a week or one every 14 hours.
Mhm.
So yes, homelessness is a problem, but I keep contending that we're not dealing with the real issue. We keep talking about affordable housing when we've got tons of vacancies and we're not dealing with available housing. And so I've asked that there be an audit conducted by the Housing Commission. We tried to go to permits for the city, but they gave us all kind of obstacles. We have these tall buildings that are sitting empty. I'm sure we have more than 10,000 vacant units that people are writing off. And so the problem is not just finding places, but as long as landlords are free to keep raising the rents the way they do, it adds to our problem. So I just want to throw this out that this is an issue. We welcome comments in terms of it, but we're not going to let it go.
So one of the things, Dr. Warren, that I always ask is that when when people present proposals that are not proposals that we can support, and financially, I don't see this as a good proposal. I say go back to the drawing board, even if they're looking at the same property, to offer that landlord 20 million. Then you own the property. Here's the issue, though. I can't see, and maybe Ms. West, you can help me with it. I can't see how they can keep 1,000 people in one place and it remains sanitary, it remains safe, and remains a civilized a location to house people. That is a tremendous amount of people in a space that I don't think is going to be healthy. I think that the viruses and things will spread rapidly, and before we know it, we will have a pandemic within that situation. What's your thoughts, Ms. West?
Well, it just seems like it's a money-making scheme, just on the face of it, in terms of the cost and the inflated cost to run the thing, first of all. So what is the intention behind it on its face for the people who supposedly are gonna be owning the property and being responsible for running it?
Mhm.
And I completely agree with you, Dr. Thompson. Where's is the plan, how sound is the plan? I think that would be the question to ask.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like you don't have a car, and you lost the car, and now you're trying to get a new car, but you're so in a rush to get a car so you can have transportation that you make deals that are not sound deals, and before you know it, you got yourself in a worse situation than if you would just been patient and paced yourself. So, Dr. Warren, I'm looking forward to reading this week's editorial. I think that you're spot on. It's a bad deal. Either go back to the drawing board, scrap it all together. I don't think at this point, with eminent domain and all the things, that we should be renting property for homeless shelter. And lastly, but not least, but I do applaud the city because they're now challenging these mega corporations in coming through and buying property and holding it. Because now we're seeing it's not the mom and pop, it's these mega corporations that are still holding on to so much of the property.
Well, that's a whole nother story we have, especially talking as one of the entities around the country buying up properties, and they've done this in many cities. I just want us to understand that there is, I don't see any redemption in this project. I see that it needs to be just shut down. You need to put out the RFP. You need to take in comparable projects and look at. And this right now smells like 101 Ash Street, which was a big scandal. And it does not pass the smell test. It does not pass a number of legal real estate tests in terms of due diligence, third party evaluation. No appraisal is done on the property, and the excuse was that it's a rental property. The redeeming factor for the city is that it's the independent budget analyst that's bringing all of this out.
Yeah.
And that's why that office was created. Because when we were under a city manager form of government, the city council had to rely upon the city manager to give it the information to make a decision on.
Yeah.
And so the independent budget analyst that we have here in the city is really modeled after the Office of Management and Budget at the federal level, which gives Congress separate information on agencies and departments, as opposed to the departments just giving it to them. And so that's why this study has been important, and we appreciate it. And we want people to speak up. There were hundreds of people that turned out for this meeting. Share your comments and observations. It's too late once the deal is done. And
And-
this deal needs to be scrapped.
And one of the things about it is that if you want your voice to be heard, put it in writing. Send it to the Voice and Viewpoint. They review all editorials, all comments, and all letters, and they try to put them all in the newspaper, especially what I call viable ones. There's some letters are just rants and raves that that the newspaper do not publish, but every letter is considered because you're the voice, and this is the voice for the people.
Well, I want to inject something here. I know Ms. West, this has been dear to her heart. After the announcement was made Sunday morning by the president, by Sunday night, there were some 47,000 black women that had a Zoom call, and they made it very clear that this wasn't just for that special occasion. They've been doing, some of those women have been meeting every week, so it was a natural outgrowth. But Ms. West was one of the people on that call, and as we know, that call went on for several hours, and so I won't try to stake the thunder. I wish you would take a few moments, Ms. Wesson, and bring us up to date. I know we've seen it on the news, but it's nothing like hearing from someone who was on the call.
Yeah, well, first I want to say to all my sisters out there, we have power, okay? We know that, now we're letting the whole nation and the world know that. And that was definitely evident in that call that happened on Sunday. And I want to say there were about 44 to 47,000 reported black women on the call, but there was also about 70,000 waiting to try to get into the call. They had to keep expanding the capacity of the call. I was one of those people that was on the phone with one of my girlfriends who had the phone up to her ear and my ear, on speaker, trying to make sure that I could hear the call. We had to go to Clubhouse, which had about 10,000 women trying to get into the call before it was expanded. So it was even more women who were actually galvanized to find out, okay, what are our marching orders? What are we going to do now? So very, very powerful. I was on the call on Sunday, and also the call that was put out by the California Black Women's Collective for the state effort on Monday, and that call went for hours and hours. So there were about, as you've heard in the news, about $1.5 million dollars raised on Sunday night before the call ended. And it was just powerful. I mean, so many women leaders, just the call to just unite together, show our power, show our force, and we're not playing. And we let everybody know that. And we're standing behind Harris and letting it be known we're calling it out. She is the next president of the United States, period, and the subject. And we're going to just let everybody know we're behind her and that she's qualified, and there's just no question, no room for doubt.
So,
Can you hear the fire in my voice?
that's the first time I ever heard you say, "Let my sisters know." I said, Dr. Warren, I feel a little fire in the women's belly now. I think y'all excited, and I just want to say what was funny to me is the former president made this big deal about the old man that he was running against, and now the tables have turned. He is now the old man.
Yes, he is.
That he has defined. And I love what Kamala said. She said, I know his type.
Exactly.
And when she broke it down.
Sorry.
I'm just excited to see that there's a galvanization, if you let me use that word, of excitement among everybody right now.
And I have to say, I was definitely in the Biden camp. I was really appalled at how disrespected he was by these supposed people who love him and care about him. That I had a problem with that, okay? And I know I'm not alone. A lot of my girlfriends, strong black women, felt the same way. So I was a little emotional when he made that call, when I found out about it on Sunday. So I kind of grieved a little bit. I felt sad for him, but immediately it was like a mix of emotions because I was so excited and hopeful knowing that he endorsed Kamala Harris. I mean, it was just, it's just that, as everyone knows now, the tables have turned, things have shifted. There has been a shift in the axis of the earth, and black women, period. I mean, she's the perfect person for this time.
Dr. Warren, now I'm going to mess with you because you said back some months ago that the biggest fear that they had is Biden would be in office and not make it through, and Kamala would be president. Now we are looking at the reality that Kamala will be president. What do you think the strategy moving forward should be to continue the growth?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that we need to address out the gate. That was on Sunday night. Monday night, black men held a network call, and they had some 17,000 donors that gave money. And so as of yesterday, the vice president had raised $126 million in a little over 48 hours. She needed 19 delegates to confirm the nomination at the convention, and by yesterday she had 2,500. She needed 1,900. She had 2,500. So she's already secured the number of votes. The last big thing left for her is the selection of a vice presidential running mate. And I think I've got to backtrack on something I said on Black Men and Women United when I was sharing this the other morning, because I went through a list of some people that I thought for various reasons could not fill that position. For instance, I said that Gavin Newsom couldn't because there's no way the country would let both the president and vice president come from the same state. There's always been a question of inclusiveness. That's why we had Kennedy from Massachusetts and Johnson from Texas. And then we got the issue of some people were trying to say Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. Well, we're not going to have two black people running the country. They just not ready for that kind of cardiac arrest. Okay, and so that wouldn't work. And then I didn't think that we would have two women in office, but I'm reconsidering that because I think that Gretchen Whitman would be a very good vice president. And as one person said, if we can have two white males all this time running the country, why can't we have two women? And Michigan is important because the real issue is being able to count the 207 electoral college votes that are needed. But to me, as I put in my editorial this week, I said the Vice President Harris and the rest of the agenda. The rest of the agenda has to be that we secure the return of the control of the House of the Representatives to the Democrats. That is paramount. If we don't do that, her presidency is going to be in for a rougher ride than it would even in beating Trump. Because if we don't get control, Mike Johnson will still be Speaker. He is already setting up all kind of false scenarios to frustrate the transfer of power. And he is not going to be like Pence, who let his constitutional duty override any loyalty to the president. And then we have a Supreme Court that's already sold out, and they could tie this thing up while Johnson gets the fake delegates in to vote. And so it's more than just getting the popular vote. See, for years, America has been deceived thinking that the popular vote is what elected the president. And that was a tranquilizer given to the masses, but it was always the Electoral College that makes that decision. And we need to maintain control of the Senate, increase it if possible. If we get control of the House and the Senate, we can take care of the Supreme Court. We can have statutory language to override Roe v. Wade, Chevron, and everything else that they do. And that's when we look at changing the court. But to talk about changing the court before we secure the votes, because one of the observations made was that when Lyndon Johnson did the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act, one only needed a majority of 51 in the Senate. Mm-hmm. Now they've changed that from 51 to 60. And so I need to get us registered. We understand that they have over 100,000 volunteers right now that have signed up. Yeah. that people are hitting the streets and
That's right.
people are still giving money. You can go online and give. And I think that a fire has been ignited that's going to continue to burn. And there is nothing that can stop an idea whose time has come. You know, that's what Gamaliel, what's his name, said, the lawyer in the Bible, when they were trying to stop the Christians. He said, if it be of man, it'll fade away. If it be of God, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
And I believe that this movement is of God in terms of its timing.
So, Miss West, being that you are female, being that you are a influencer, and you're in the right position to tell the story, what is the story that you're going to be sharing, not just on a partisan level, but on a country level, in the message that you're going to send out to help galvanize more young people?
That there's no choice here.
Mhm.
There's no choice. I mean, as in, you have a choice between going backwards or you have a choice to go forward and be for the people and for your interests, things that are going to benefit you, or you're going to be in retrograde, going behind, thinking something fanciful about some man that you think is strong and powerful because he talks a good game, which is nothing. It's like smoke screens.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's about the choice that has to be made for things that are for you and in moving us forward, and for the people are going backwards. But also just making sure that everyone understands the qualifications that Vice President Kamala Harris already has. She's prepared. She's ready. She's gotten the training from a master, not only politician, but statesman, elderly statesman who's had 50 plus years of experience behind him, and all of the things that he's done in office, things that you don't necessarily know about behind the scenes, but that he knew how to work that Congress to get things done. She was sitting there right at the table next to this man, learning these things for the last 3.5 years. So she knows how to do the job, in addition to the qualifications that she already had that brought her to being his vice presidential pick. So she's qualified. She knows what she's doing. She will be she will be president. And she is for the people and for the future.
Yeah. And Dr. Warren, I'll just say again, the old man in the room, 78 years old, now the tables have turned. Now, Dr. Warren, I know that you're a young man and you still pushing.
Save the smoke.
Still
the smoke.
pushing. My question is beyond age and everything else. Your endorsement or your push. What's the strategy? You've been on Capitol Hill. You worked elections. You've been elected. What is the strategy that we have to do, not only from the black press, but us as people, to make the right moves and to convince people that they need to vote?
Well, I've been on the Hill through 5 presidents, so I've seen a lot going back to Kennedy and all of those that followed. I've been a member of the Democratic Convention in terms of participating in that process, because that's where I met the late Jerry Warren, as we were delegates in the convention. And so I think that as I'm writing and I'm sharing with people, my emphasis is on the rest of the agenda. My emphasis is on getting people registered to vote, getting people to get off of their excuses. It's not going to matter. I can't vote. My vote doesn't count. I'm interested in us getting people who have family and friends in other states, though the states may be red, that we motivate them to get to the polls and get involved, vote early, vote absentee, look at the obstacles, go around the obstacles, get the obstacles out of the way. And this has to be what we do. Now, we've got voter registration cards at the Voice and Viewpoint. California is one of those states, thanks to Dr. Weber, where people can vote if they're ex-felons. We've had abuse, like the lady in Florida who has served her time, registered to vote, and they arrested her and said she wasn't supposed to vote because she had been a felon when the law says she could. There are going to be all kinds of tricks because the whole Trump empire is shaky right now. J.D. Vance is not going to be a match for anyone that's picked to be vice president. If you put Donald Duck in there as vice president, he couldn't beat him in a debate because he has no substance. I heard him yesterday trying to give a speech, and he stumbled like he knew he was in speech 101. It was horrible. And Trump is going to self-destruct. The people supporting Trump are people who are already out of touch with reality. So they're going to buy it. I heard a little old white focus group in Indianapolis today talking about she's DEI. They don't even know what DEI stands for. I doubt if they know the alphabet. And yet we have all of this hatred trying to be unleashed to substitute substance. And hatred will not work. But before we go further, Dr. Thompson, we haven't told people that if you'd like to join us, you can call in at 858-251-6111. That's the phone call in if you got a question or comment. Or you can go to godradio1.com. And if you have a question or comment, you can reach us in either way. And we still have enough time to hear from you and have your input. We still are going to use at least the last 15 minutes of this program to continue my weekly discussion of Project 2025 as I share with us the dangers that come along with Trump, so that there's more at stake than Donald Trump. And that's what we need to look at now. Trump is going to self-destruct just like that tape on Mission Impossible, because when you keep putting that ignorance up against information, it won't hold. And you saw this at the convention. The Republican people there, with all the badges, they were tuning out. They were embarrassed. They had the looks on their faces. And it's like, I'm supporting this idiot, but I can't get out the room. And so it's going to come out. All we have to do is stay the course and not assume that we've won the race just because our baton is being carried out front for us. We still got to do the handoff to Harris to get her over the finish line.
And can I say that also making it clear to everyone, every person in every state, that every vote really does matter. And in California, it still matters that you vote, especially for the down ballot races, because we want, as you said, Dr. Warren, we want to make sure that we are dominating in the Congress, in the House, and the Senate. So we have to vote and learn the issues, learn what it is, learn what's at stake here, and don't just go for the okey doke, like the memes about the DEI vice president, et cetera, no, and honestly believe that sorry, I sound like a broken record, but I believe it to my core, believe that she can become president of the United States. It's a new time. This is her time. We have on one side this man who, as president, tried to overturn our whole democratic process. January 6th. If there's nothing else that anybody needs to remember, it's January 6th. Because any person in office who blocks the peaceful transfer of power does not deserve to be president of these United States. End of story. And his whole camp is against stuff. And Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign is for things that are going to help the country.
What also tickles me is simply this. After he does lose this campaign for the second time, the question is, will his photo go up, painting go up in the White House, and do they then ban him from the White House because they let him in once again? He might get in there and sit down and chain himself to a pole.
No, I don't think he'll want to go. I mean, his whole purpose, Trump has a lot in common with Benjamin Netanyahu from Israel. As long as Netanyahu can stay in power, he can possibly stay out of jail, because 72% of the people in Israel want him out of office. And the war is keeping him in office. And the facts have shown that he's responsible for the war based on some things that he's done. So he gave a nice dog and pony show today in Congress that lasted for about an hour. and he did all of that. Trump is still facing the indictment. Trump, as we're presenting it, is a matter of the prosecutor being Kamala Harris against the convicted felon being Donald Trump. And so it's not been a good year for Trump with black folks. You know, Letitia James, the DA from the city of New York, Judge Chalkin, federal court in D.C., Fonnie Willis in Atlanta, and now, God, he thought I had it bad. Now I got a black woman I'm running against for president. So this is a difficult time for him, and he demonstrated when he blew it the other night. He had a chance to make a major policy statement, which historically is what's done at the end of a convention when the standard bearer is brought out. The direction is set. He didn't do that. He talked about Silence of the Lamb. He talked about, what's his name?
Lecter.
From Lecter, talking about the late Lecter like he was a real person when he was a fictitious character from the movie. I mean, he's just, fumbling. You talk about Biden. At least Biden was substantive with his slow speech or stuttering. He was substantive, but Trump is not. You can't make him what he's not. And I think he's going to be an embarrassment to them. And I want him to continue to be an embarrassment. I want him to speak every chance he gets because every time he opens his mouth, he'll be getting a vote in the direction of our candidate for president. So I think this is very important. Also, want a little pride note here. Harvard had Obama. Now Howard has this chance with Kamala Harris. And Howard has always been the black Harvard to many people. But we've always produced quality. We produced Thurgood Marshall. We produced David Dinkin. The list is endless in terms of what we produced in terms of black people making a contribution to this country. And so she is carrying on that tradition. And I'm sure the AKAs are all excited about it. She spoke with Zeta Phi Beta today in Indianapolis. Which was an important thing, and so she can relate, and this is a good thing.
So with that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I honestly think her rallying cry, I know Donald Trump's type as a female, I think every female in America can relate to that statement, especially in relation to his convictions related to harassment and just sexual harassment. So I just think it'll be interesting to see how many women, as they continue polling, how many women lean towards him. Because the interesting thing is there were still more women, especially white women, who voted for Trump than voted for Biden in 2020, I believe it was, or 2016. I got to get my statistics straight, but I don't think we can just automatically assume that Kamala will galvanize all women, because hopefully times have changed, but we'll see.
Well, I believe very strongly, and I've run for office many times and dealt with many contingencies at the polls. I believe that many of the white Republican female wearing the Trump buttons and badges, when they draw that curtain and they cast that vote and no one is looking, they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. Their mind is going to go back to Susan B. Anthony. Their mind is going to go back to Harriet Tubman. Their mind is going to go back to, and I saw a black woman at a Trump rally in North Carolina, all dressed up like they do, like the clowns that they are, talking about James Brown. Don't give me no help, just open the door and I'll get it myself. And she looked like if they showed her the door, she wouldn't know where the doorknob was. But there we go. We won't get distracted, you see. We got to be like Nehemiah on the wall. We're doing a great work and we won't come down. And I think that this is galvanizing across the board. The Asians, the Latinos, the blacks, and the whites. You got all of these elements that are going to be voting for her. And I think it's going to be surprising. The polls might not reflect it, but when the curtain is drawn, that's when we're going to get the true test.
Well, I think Roe versus Wade, the repeal of that is deciding factor in what's going to happen in this election? Because in 2016, that hadn't happened yet, even though Hillary Clinton was running against Trump. The Roe versus Wade.
Well, not only
hadn't
Roe
happened
versus
yet.
Wade, LaTanya, you're right, Roe versus Wade, but you see, Clarence Thomas muddied the water further because when he started talking about contraceptives, the other case that
Exactly.
came up was Griswold v. Connecticut. And most people don't realize it, that when Griswold v. Connecticut was decided, it was a question as to whether or not the government could go into your bedroom and have something to say about whether or not you're using contraceptives. And the court said that the public had no prevailing interest in the privacy of what happens in one's bedroom. And so people are going to remember that just as much as they're looking for the day after pill and all of those things. And Kamala keeps putting it be there. The government has no right telling a woman what to do with her body. Every
Exactly.
woman, and even those who trying to become women, they're going to relate to that statement, and
Yes.
they're going to be motivated because it's a woman making the statement and not a man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me say this. I think that we are on the journey for supporting a president that will be for the people and of the people. But I think that while we're doing this, we still have to go back because there's a document that is out there, Dr. Warren, that I need you to spend some time with because we still must educate them on Project 25. It is still out there, and it's still what I consider to be the Willie Lynch papers of modern day.
Well, you know, we always have to tell people what Willie Lynch was, Dr. Thompson, because we got some people listening today that weren't even born when the Willie Lynch letter was written.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I got a bridge I'll sell you too. All right. In essence, the whole thing was, it was like one slave owner writing a letter to another telling them how to keep the slaves in balance, how to keep them divided, how to keep them fighting against each other. And if you kept them loyal to you and not to each other, it would be easier to control them because it was more of them than it was of you. And so that letter is so important because we see remnants of that today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at black people like Ben Carson. Ben Carson, who everyone was proud of what he did as a neurosurgeon, groundbreaking work. And here this man, what did he do? He sold out to Trump in Trump's term. He should have been to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. What does he do? He goes to HUD and gets caught up with his wife buying furniture. That's ridiculous. When you look at Project 2025, he's one of the brain thrusts down there, along with a Peter Navarro. And looked at Peter Navarro last week. I remember Peter Navarro here in San Diego when he was running for mayor and coming to the Catfish Club, and we were kicking him around like a football. And now what happens? He gets out of federal prison Wednesday morning, and they fly him immediately to Wisconsin.
Hold up. Wait a minute. He got from where and who, and you can't just drop that nugget and so they just got convicted felons coming from all over. What's going
Well,
on?
Peter Navarro went to jail for 4 months for contempt of Congress.
Okay.
And see, most of us don't recognize him because when he was here and he was younger like you and I, he had hair and the whole thing. Now he looks like some old shriveled up white dude that's still trying to get up and have something to say. And then they put him on a podium along with Hulk Hogan. You know, I couldn't tell whether I was at Disneyland or watching a convention.
Oh, I literally enjoyed Hulk Hogan, and the reason being is that if anybody had a doubt in their mind that Donald Trump was in TV La La Land, that was when Hulk Hogan got up there.
The only thing missing was the Lego pieces, you know,
Yeah.
with the dragon flying through. I mean, this was it. I mean, this was just crazy. And Navarro got on the microphone and said, I went to jail so you wouldn't have to. No, you went to jail because you drank the Kool-Aid, just like the former mayor of New York, Rudy, did. And Rudy is still paying for it. He lost his law license. He's lost his house. He owes those two black women more than he can ever raise. Nobody's giving money to him. I don't know if the makeup is still running down his face when he speaks. Powell was there. She lost her license. And they still going to jail.
And still got Scott out there telling him that he loves him more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, Tim Scott, you know, Tim Scott, he's an embarrassment even to the clowns that we had at Broadville. You know, I mean, the black folks who did Whiteface had more character than Tim Scott. It's sickening to watch him suck up and talk about how much he loves the master. You know, it's kind of like in the movie Fountainhead, you know, where the slaves were said to the master, when the master says, I got a pain, they say, we sick, master. We hurt, master. And so that's Tim Scott, huh?
Yeah.
we going to be president again, master.
Yeah.
And so serves him right, and they've lost credibility. And I can't be nice about it because they're all getting what they deserve.
Yeah.
But they have the nerve to hold up Tim Scott, Byron Reynolds, I think his name is, and Pete Navarro even, as somehow being representative of the black struggle. They're representatives of black people, and somehow Republicans are supposed to be more relatable because Pete Navarro went to jail like black people go to jail. It's such stereotypical. It's just crazy.
He got jail credit. he got
Yeah.
4 months underneath his belt in
Yeah.
a white collar prison.
Yeah, he got jail credit.
He got jail credit, you know.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
it's so insulting. It's
Yeah.
so insulting to black people.
Yeah. Now before we go to Project 25 a little bit more, I have a very pertinent question, and maybe you can answer it because I haven't found the answer, but maybe you can answer it. Ms. West, what are black jobs?
Black jobs are vice president of the United States.
Okay. We've been trying to figure that out because, Dumb Donald said that people are coming over here taking black jobs, and I just didn't get that. So I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
Well, obviously he was talking about service jobs, low-paying jobs, as if in 2024 that's all black people are worthy of having those types of jobs. It's just so.
Well, they certainly weren't doing an Indeed commercial, and it always reminded me. My grandfather, who was a waiter on the Seaboard Railroad for 44 years, told me one morning he was serving 4 white women for breakfast. And one white lady says to the other, last night, child, I dreamt that I went to heaven, and it was so beautiful. And so one of the women at the table interrupted her and said, did you see any colors? And she said, well, no, I didn't get to the kitchen, but let me tell you about the rest of it, okay? And so obviously that was where we were in her dream, and that's where we are in the minds of some of these folks today. We have come too far from the kitchen. We've stepped out of character and place. I mean, if you consider, what was it, just 60 years ago, and we didn't had a black male president, now we're getting to be a black female. That's just too much for some of their hearts to bear. Yeah, I expect them to start dropping dead from cardiac arrest by the time the inauguration takes place.
And I will consistently say all kinfolks are skinfolk and kinfolks. People that are coming in office, that we're not just voting because, and I want to say this clearly, we're not going to vote for Kamala because she is African American.
No.
We are voting for her because of her qualifications and her ability to lead this country and take it to the next level. That is why we are voting. It just happens to be that she is biracial.
Well, and we have to keep reminding people of her track record because they get lost in it. Reminding them that she was the district attorney in San Francisco, reminding them that she was state attorney general for 6 years, largest state in the union, and made a reputation for herself. Matter of fact, she and Biden had worked together at one point in that particular capacity, reminding them that she was elected to the U.S. Senate from the largest state in the union, and that she has the capability and the credentials, and she's prosecuted, as she said, the kind of people that she's going to be up against with a Trump. And so this is going to be about the future, and she's not going to get distracted with allegations that she's a diversity, equity, inclusion person. Some of them have just learned those 3 letters, and they're still trying to spell the words to go with it. So we won't worry about that. We're going to go forward. Project 2025, again, as I keep reminding you each week, and I'm going to keep doing this, this represents a think tank piece for presidential transition that was written by the Heritage Foundation. And the Heritage Foundation was a think tank devoted to coming up with what agenda the next Republican president should have. And it's so important to look at the outlook. The The philosophical outlook of it is that it's a mandate that they have presented going forward for how America should be run, and how we can alter the meaning of the Declarations of Independence, Article 2 in terms of presidential powers. The director of this thing comes out of the Office of Personnel Management, OMB. And so that's a connection to the fact that with the Project 2025 mandate, Trump has already started a recruitment campaign. He has the idea of having this Presidential Administration Academy. He wants to recruit 50,000 people so that he can fire all of the civil servants, replace them with people who drink the Kool-Aid and swear allegiance to him. Now, you got to understand that our civil service merit system has been around since the 1870s, and they want to throw all of this out just to move to make a would-be president king, and that's not acceptable, okay? Now, Project 2025 is built on 4 pillars. It's a 920-page book called Mandate for Leadership, and it's a conservative promise that looks to change America. How? It's going to create a personnel database that will be shared with the president-elect's team so that he can handpick people to go into various positions. He's going to eliminate the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, terminate the Department of Education. He's going to get rid of affirmative action, equity, diversity. He's going to get rid of the Environmental Protection Agency, if you will, okay? This playbook designed for forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move in the first 180 days of an administration. That's just why he knows that there's going to be some resistance, all right? And they are building this thing around some concept that they would call Christian nationalism. And that's a very interesting thing because the right wing, which is supposed to be Christian, has embraced the president because of the former president, because their opposition to abortions, birth control, all those things that stand out in terms of their hypocritical philosophy. So, yeah, please, because it's so much. I'm trying to.
The question comes in, Christian nationalism, is that tied in with white nationalism? Because they're both using the word nationalism, and it seems like they're one and the same at this point.
Well, what they have is it's a commitment to an institutional separation between church and state. Now, and that whole thing is a fallacy, okay? Because Thomas Jefferson is the one who first used the term of having a wall of separation when he wrote a letter in 1870-something to the Danbury Baptist Association that was afraid that in becoming president that his religion was going to take over. And he promised that there would be a wall of separation. All the First Amendment says is that the Congress will make no law, if you will, that would bring about a national religion. And that was to be in opposition to what happened in England, where Henry withdrew from the Catholic Church, created the Anglican Church, and in lieu of the Pope, put in the Archbishop of Canterbury. So that's the only piece there. This first use of separation beyond Jefferson came in a 1948-49 Supreme Court decision out of New Jersey involving public funds being used to pay for children going to private or Catholic schools. And so it's a whole misrepresentation, and they're twisting religion so that they can justify the racism. If you listen to these conservative right people, if you're not white and right, you can't be Christian. And there's no such thing as that. Okay? Yes, please.
Can I also interject, though, too, that they're inserting this idea that it's God's plan to have Trump run the country. So that's where we get into really dangerous territory as well. Yeah. Because they, and this whole conspiracy, this idea that there's a conspiracy in the deep state to prevent Trump and their people and their values from, being put forward. But also too, Dr. Warren and Dr. Thompson, is this idea from the Heritage Foundation, who wrote the Project 2025, and Kevin Roberts, who is the head of the Heritage Foundation, saying that this is a second American revolution that will remain bloodless if the left allows it. I mean, just imagine this person saying this, and it's a complete lie that Trump didn't know anything about any of this, because people from his cabinet wrote the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Or contributed to it.
we need to be reminded that this is not the first time, because in 2016, when Trump was running, before he got elected in 2020, the Heritage Foundation gave them the blueprint then for his administration. And that's why he came into office reversing all of the executive orders that Obama had put in place, which he had to do since the Senate would not let anything he did pass in an effort to keep him from succeeding. So that's why my emphasis is on the rest of the agenda, because if we don't have control of the House and the Senate, then she will be hamstrung in terms of being effective as she can be.
So
And there are those that postulate that it's already begun, right?
Yeah.
With all the things that the Supreme Court has already passed, that it's already in place. The wheels have already turned. That's why it's so important for Harris to win, to put the brakes on all that.
Yeah. So with it all being said, the key word is get out the vote, vote the slate, make sure that we get everybody in position to stop this basically a travesty. I'm sad when I hear people say they're praying to the African angels. I still ain't found none. I'm looking for them. The pastor that closed out the Republican convention prayed a false prayer about him being a God-fearing, wonderful this and wonderful that. And I sat back up there and said, we cannot be so party-driven, so agenda-driven that we miss out on the reality of what is truly taking place. Now, again, I will say we're going to call what they say a spade. We're going to call things as they are.
Yes,
No
they are.
one's perfect, but when you have somebody that was blameless like Jesus and the people still chose Barabbas, that's an issue.
Well, let me say two things before we go off the air. First of all, if you read in the 24th chapter of Matthew, Jesus said that many would come in his name. He talked about false prophets coming forward. This is a time of then. He talked about wars and rumors of wars. This is a time for that. This is a fulfillment of those prophecies beyond AD 70 in terms of what happened with Rome. So this part is very real piece. I keep reminding folks that the critical thing about the House and the Senate being democratic is that the way the Constitution is written, for every decision that the Supreme Court has passed to take away a right, like Roe v. Wade, it can be overturned by the Congress passing legislation to reinstate it as a law. And so that's what we have to do first. We need to get the people in place so that we can reverse the Supreme Court decisions legislatively. And once we are doing that, then we can change the Supreme Court makeup. And we can nullify the court if we need to add people to it. But we can make it meaningless if we need to.
Yeah.
That's why they put that check and balance system there. And that's why Trump and the Heritage people in those 920 pages want to try to block every chess move that could return us to a separation of power so that we could still have checks and balances.
Yeah.
And someone has to keep teaching us, keep it in front of us. Yes, we're pushing for Kamala. She's running the relay. But let's not forget the rest of the activity going on in the stadium. And we've got to mind the hurdles that are there. Somebody's got to be jumping the hurdles.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be doing the long run. Somebody's got to be doing the dash. And if those things are happening, we can win collectively.
Well, Dr. Warren, I'm so proud of you using sports terms.
Well, the Olympics starts in 2 days.
Yeah,
so,
I'm proud of you, and that's true. We got so much to look forward to. We want you to stay tuned from the desk of the editor with Dr. John Warren. We're going to ask that you would, number one, download GOD Radio 1, their app. Also follow that with a download of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. We will keep you up to date each and every day. And I want to say this last but not least, I need for you all to this fill the inboxes and the telephone at the Voice and Viewpoint and say, we want to see Miss West on a lot more than once a month. Amen. With that being said, this is from the Desk of the
She's
Evidence
welcome.
with Dr. John Warren, Dr. LT, and also Miss Tanya West, right here on GODRadio1.com. Y'all be blessed.
Thank you.